The first thing people noticed about Daniel Carter wasn't the mop in his hands or the janitor badge clipped to his faded uniform. It was the way he moved through the glass and marble headquarters like he didn't belong to the shadows. Every morning before sunrise, while the city still slept, Daniel cleaned the offices of the most powerful people in aviation finance, silently wiping away fingerprints from windows that overlooked private jets worth more than his lifetime earnings. He was a single father, raising his 8-year-old son alone after life had taken everything else from him. And this job, humbling, invisible, and exhausting, was all that stood between stability and chaos. Most employees barely noticed him, except when they needed an extra trash bin emptied or a spill cleaned in a hurry. But one person noticed him very clearly: Claire Whitmore, the razor-sharp CEO of Whitmore Aerospace, a woman known for her brilliance, arrogance, and absolute intolerance for weakness. Claire ruled the company like a kingdom, dressed in tailored suits and confidence sharpened to a blade. To her, Daniel was just another reminder of inefficiency, a man who represented how far someone could fall. One morning, as she stepped out of a boardroom fresh from securing a billion-dollar deal, she nearly collided with Daniel pushing his cleaning cart. Coffee splashed, her heels slipped, and in front of her executives she exploded. She mocked him openly, his uniform, his job, his lack of ambition. Her words cut deeper than she realized, echoing through the marble halls. Daniel apologized quietly, eyes lowered, swallowing the familiar burn of humiliation. What Claire didn't know, what no one in that building knew, was that Daniel once sat in cockpits very similar to the jets parked outside. He used to fly them. Years ago, Daniel Carter was a decorated Air Force pilot, later recruited into private aviation. He flew high-profile clients, emergency missions, and even test aircraft for companies like Whitmore Aerospace. But when his wife died suddenly, leaving him with a grieving toddler and no family support, Daniel made a choice. He grounded himself. Missed flight hours turned into lost certifications. Lost certifications turned into lost identity. And eventually, he took the only job that allowed him to work nights and be home for his son during the day, cleaning floors in the same building where his life once soared. Claire's words stung not because they were new, but because they came from someone who had everything he once had, and treated people like him as disposable. Later that week, Whitmore Aerospace prepared for a high-stakes demonstration flight. Investors from overseas were arriving to inspect the company's newest jet, a prototype that could redefine private aviation. Everything had to be perfect. But perfection shattered when the test pilot fell ill hours before takeoff, and the backup pilot was stranded by weather. Panic rippled through the executive floor. Millions were on the line. Claire paced the hangar, furious and desperate, when she noticed Daniel quietly mopping near the aircraft. Out of frustration more than reason, she snapped at him to clear the area. That's when Daniel spoke, not loudly, not arrogantly, but with calm certainty. He said, "If you need a pilot, I can fly it." Laughter followed. Executives scoffed. Claire stared at him like he'd just insulted her intelligence. A janitor? Fly her jet? She mocked him again, asking if he learned that from video games. But something in Daniel's eyes, steady, unshaken, made the room fall quiet. He mentioned aircraft specifications casually, corrected a misquoted stat, and asked about the jet's modified avionics as if discussing an old friend. Silence replaced laughter. Time was running out. With no other options and pride battling panic, Claire made a reckless decision. She told him if he failed even the smallest pre-check, security would escort him out. Daniel nodded once, calmly, confidently, and walked toward the jet like he had never left the sky. The moment Daniel stepped into the cockpit, something changed. Not just in him, but in the air itself. His hands moved with muscle memory untouched by time, fingers gliding over controls with reverence and precision. He adjusted the seat, checked the displays, and ran through pre-flight checks faster and more accurately than the official checklist required. Engineers leaned in. Executives stopped whispering. Claire watched from the tarmac, arms crossed, jaw tight, telling herself this was a mistake, yet unable to look away. When Daniel's voice came through the headset, it wasn't the voice of a janitor asking permission. It was the voice of a pilot in command, clear, calm, absolute. The jet roared to life, engines humming like a promise. As Daniel taxied down the runway, investors watched closely, their skepticism thick. Then the aircraft lifted, smooth, flawless, powerful. In the sky, Daniel pushed the jet through its demonstration sequence with masterful control, showcasing maneuvers even the designers hadn't expected to see executed so cleanly. Inside the cabin, data screens lit up green. On the ground, jaws dropped. The jet didn't just perform, it danced. Every turn was poetry, every adjustment intentional. Claire felt something unfamiliar tighten in her chest. This wasn't luck. This was excellence. When the jet touched down perfectly, applause broke out across the hangar. Investors smiled. Engineers cheered. Daniel shut down the engines and sat quietly for a moment, breathing in the familiar silence of completion. When he stepped out, the crowd parted. Claire approached him slowly, pride stripped bare. For the first time she saw him not as a janitor, not as a mistake, but as a man who had been invisible by choice and circumstance. She asked him why he never said anything. Daniel answered simply that no one ever asked. That day changed everything. Claire offered Daniel a pilot position on the spot, full reinstatement benefits and flexibility for his son. But more than that, she apologized publicly. Not the polished corporate kind, but a real one. She admitted her arrogance, her failure to see value beyond titles. Daniel accepted not for revenge, not for validation, but for his son, who later watched his father climb into a cockpit with pride instead of shame. Months later, Daniel wasn't just flying jets. He was mentoring young pilots, advocating for overlooked talent, and reminding the company that greatness doesn't always wear a suit. Claire changed too. She listened more, judged less, and every time she saw a janitor pushing a cart through the halls, she remembered the day the man she mocked took her company to new heights. Stories like this remind us that you never know who someone truly is, or what they've survived, or what they're capable of when given one chance. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you think differently like the video, share it with someone who needs motivation, and subscribe to the channel for more powerful, life-changing stories. Because the next one might just change the way you see the world.